Good evening, friends. We are meeting after a week, and you are listening to and you're viewing to the digital video news bulletin of datelinegujaratnews.com. So, what's buzzing? Today is Monday, actually, and what's buzzing? I mean, the day has ended, of course, and we do the report in such a manner that we give you the news what has happened across the day, the main headlines, rather headlines. So, you can just take your own interest. If you have something which is interesting, you can go and surf and read and see, of course, both the things. So, what is really dominating the headlines today in the world news and world media? It's the Turkish elections, the Turkish polls, where Erdogan has been declared victorious. He's back in power. His victory is being celebrated. On the other end, there have been opinion pieces across the world in media which says that what are the key takeaways when Erdogan is back in power in Turkey? Because Turkey is a place, terrain which is more or less, surrounded with lots of conflicts in Israel and Palestine, Syria, Iran, conflict with the US, the kind of activities of ISIS, and of course, Russia and Ukraine. And amidst all this, Turkey, Istanbul, this has always remained a kind of corridor for the West and the East. So what does this really mean? The key takeaways are reported in a fantastic manner by the New York Times. And of course, what does it really mean? I mean, what does this victory of Erdogan really mean for the West and the world? So that is also something which needs to be understood. On one hand, when the victory is being celebrated, the Turkish society, which is kind of facing lots of crisis after the earthquake, it's divided also because the kind of polarization and the kind of tactics which Erdogan has used to win these elections are definitely something which is divisive in nature, and the nation is also reeling through the economic crisis. And amidst this, the Turkish currency lira, which has almost it's fallen down to the record low, so it's not somewhere a positive sentiment. But also there has been a video which has gone viral which says that Erdogan has flouted the election rules, where he was seen distributing cash to the voters outside the polling booths. So this is happening in the world now. It's just not somewhere in some part of under civilized or underdeveloped society. It's happening in a place like Turkey, which is ages old society, ages old civilization, ages old nation, of course. So what's happening on the other front in Russia and Ukraine? The Russia and Ukraine battle has almost entered the 450th day today. Russia has hit a missile in a medical clinic in Dnipro and killing one person, injuring 15. And that's what's update from the Russia and Ukraine war zone. What's happening in Sudan? US and Saudi Arabia are making joint efforts for the ceasefire in Sudan, but amidst this, there has been a warning, from UN, which says that 1.3 million people have fled their homes due to this fight between Sudanese army and RSF militia, headed by Hemedati. So this is something which is happening since April, and people have fled the nation. And due to this, UN report has also warned something which says that this could lead to a kind of risk of hunger to the near hotspot areas. And of course, the crisis also spills over the El Nino, across the sub-region, and the El Nino is also looming, So there are a lot of issues with Sudan in this scenario, in this situation on the African subcontinent. Amidst this situation, where on one side there is kind of efforts made for the peace, and on the other side people are yet fighting, a makeshift clinic calls for volunteers and resources has been made by several agencies as the fighting continues to rage in Sudan. And what's happening in Israel and Palestine, the conflict zone, of course. So, the conflict zone of Middle East. So what's happening over there? Gaza celebrated the victory of Erdogan, and the way he won the polls in Turkey. Amidst this, the Israeli occupation demolished the houses in Bethlehem. Israeli army invaded and bulldozed Palestinian lands in Gaza Strip. So this is all what is happening in mainly the war zones of the world. And what's the major concern, across the world, in the economic corridors, in the share market, in the bazaar, in the economy, of the policymakers, is the US debt ceiling. Of course, some positive sentiments have been served in that speech made by Biden and the Biden administration, the entire Senate, the grand old party. Everybody is kind of unanimously have agreed to bail out the situation, because $31 trillion crisis. I mean, you're sitting on that debt. India is today a $3.5 trillion economy. We are aiming to be a $5 trillion economy, and USA is just sitting on 6 times of the debt of what we are aiming. So amidst that, how will you balance your debt? How will you do your checks and balances? I think positive indications has come out, which is reflected, of course, in the markets, which is my favorite subject, business and finance. So what are the updates from there? So Asian markets have reciprocated in a very good manner to this development. And of course, the European stock market, the US stock market have also, I mean, the share prices have gone up, the indices have gone up. The pan-European stocks, 600 was up, I mean, almost marginally higher at 461.85. I mean, Joe Biden and Congressional Republican McCarthy agreed on Saturday to avert the economically destabilizing default of suspending the 31.4 trillion debt ceiling until 2025. So this is a good news basically for the markets. Indian stock market also reacted sharply to this. Indian shares were in a positive zone. The Nifty and the Sensex also ended in on the green counters, on the positive counters in the green zone. And what's happening with the commodities market because of this? So what has happened mainly is that the headlines have reflected sharply. I mean, a sharp kind of reaction to this US debt ceiling news. But gold prices were almost unchanged. If you're talking of the 3 core commodities, gold, oil and currency. Dollar edged down a little. Oil prices eked out modest gains on Monday. So this was largely a kind of mixed sentiment in the markets. Apart from that, news on the COVID front, as the large study uncovers the new details about long COVID, how worried we should be of the China's new COVID wave, because there have been some estimates that by June 2023 end, there is estimate of 65 million, sorry, not 6.5 million, 65 million. So that's almost 6.5 crore people likely to be infected by, get infected again by this new variant of COVID. And amidst this also there is a hopeful news, a good news is that US FDA has given an approval for the first oral antiviral for treatment of COVID-19 in adults. Many Indian companies were also working in this direction, so this is indeed a good news. But yes, the new variant of COVID and the new COVID wave in China is something we all need to remain alert. And of course, through our web newsletter, our news wires, we'll keep you posted on the same also. Last but not the least is the weather, the severe weather conditions across the world, because we're just not going to talk about India, we're going to talk about across the world. And thousands have been evacuated in northern province of Philippines, which has warned floodings and landslides from the typhoon which is approaching. Like we have cyclones in India, the Southeast Asian region has typhoons, and this typhoon called Mawar, which is approaching on the northern province. The schools have been shut, the offices have been shut, the villages the villagers have been asked to relocate at another place. There has been a no sail ban as this typhoon Mawar approaches the country's northern province, so nobody has to go into the sea. While equally in India, in several parts of India, IMD has predicted a rainfall and thunderstorms mainly in India till March 31st. Yesterday there were thunderstorms and hailstorms in Ahmedabad. IPL was not played. Today IPL is being played, and the reserve day benefit which came, and today it's being played. And this activity is likely to peak on March 29, that's today, and March 30 and 31. This there is a kind of alert which has been issued by the weather office in India. So the weather office has issued orange and yellow alerts mainly in Rajasthan, as the rainfall and hailstorms are predicted in several parts of the state. So it's mainly the western province, the northwestern province, where this cyclone and rainfall is likely to affect. 6 Saptarishi idols collapsed in the Ujjain's Mahakal corridor due to heavy winds. The pictures are not really good, but this has happened. And even the impact is felt in Gujarat. Yesterday it was Ahmedabad, today it's in Kandla. You can see the visuals. There has been a link which I have given on my newsletter. You can click that. The cranes have been seen moving, kind of sliding at Kandla port on the west coast of the state of Gujarat, and due to heavy winds, rainfall and hailstorms, and a telecom tower has also collapsed. So this is all in today's news. Have a good day. Thank you, and do keep on visiting datelinegujaratnews.com and see the news wires and the newsletters. Thank you.